Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to another Ali Brothers podcast. This is podcast number, it'll say in the title what number it is.
That's right.
It isn't count. And it's an emergency podcast because of recent events, current events, because of the news.
That's right. I think if we would...
We were having a conversation about the news, how it comes from. It's always new, that's why it's called the news.
That's right. I only realised that fairly recently, actually.
Yeah. So the news is, with regards to in unfortunate circumstances because of the Qur'an burnings, yet again, and that's one of the reasons why we felt compelled to talk about this. Perhaps if it happened once, maybe we might not have talked about it, but the fact that it happened so many times in recent months, it's just ridiculous. I don't know what's trying to be achieved here. In our immediate reaction, something that I wanted to start from, the first point that I wanted to address was a lot of people are saying this is blasphemous, this is hate speech, but I want to take a step further back from that for a second. And the question I want to ask is, do you not have anything better to do than to go out of your way to burn copies of the Qur'an? Do you not have anything better to do? If it doesn't make any sense, what's your reaction, your immediate reaction to this?
I just don't understand. It takes a very specific kind of a person to do that, right? A lot of things I feel would have to perhaps maybe go wrong in your life for you to think that such a decision is productive in any way.
Yeah.
The thing is, it doesn't achieve anything. Like, you're burning the Qur'an. What does it really achieve? Does it, in your eyes, make it less true? I mean, what does it do? Also, it doesn't exactly cause people to continue to want to have a conversation over their differences. It doesn't exactly make people want to unite. It's just very strange. I mean, there's many things that we disagree with. There's many things that we really, really disagree with. And we, in many ways, we would have the opposite belief system to them. But I don't know if I would ever go out of my way, and if I even have time during the day, and think that it would be productive to go and burn something that is the core of another belief system. And I'm talking basically anything, even from a political perspective, because religion is very different. And especially when it comes to Christians and Jews, Muslims have a very special relationship with them. There's so much in common there. So it wouldn't even enter my mind to be, yes, this is a productive way to further this conversation, that I'm going to burn the Bible or the Torah or something like that. It makes absolutely no sense. And that's besides the point that we believe in so much of what is, as Muslims, we believe so much of what is in the Torah and the Bible. But even if it was something we have absolutely nothing in common with, it makes absolutely no sense for me to go out publicly and burn a book that contains the core belief of whatever belief system it is. It's just not a productive use of my time. How does that reflect on myself? It reflects that, I mean, what does that, people don't even understand how it reflects upon themselves, how negatively it is for themselves to do something like that.
Exactly, precisely. From my perspective, the act of burning the Qur'an, what specifically are you trying to say? Because it's not clear. It's not. What are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that, from my understanding, this book it fuels terrorism, it has hate speech, it does all these negative, it promotes all these negative views in Muslims, which is causing billions of Muslims to be violent? Is that what you're trying to say, or is it that, okay, perhaps if a person is Muslim, that your personal interaction or your experiences as a Muslim or even a non-Muslim, your experiences with Islam have been particularly negative? For example, if you're in a Muslim majority country, for example, your experiences have been a particular way and you're not happy about that, and you want to express your opinions. But by burning the Quran and saying a few slogans, we don't know exactly what you're trying to achieve. You're not achieving anything. And also, the act of physically burning the Quran, it gives fuel for that kind of disconnection and that kind of animosity between groups who don't need that to be there. Excuse the pun, but it gives that fuel for further breakdown of communication, which ironically is exactly what's going on there.
That's exactly the point, that it doesn't exactly, seeing something like that from Muslims, it doesn't exactly make them want to have a conversation with a person who has clearly an opposing belief system. And that's what should be happening. If I believe Islam is so terrible, first of all, I need to have an actual conversation about that. I need to actually make some intelligent points about why I think this religion is so bad. And how am I going to do that in a fair way? First of all, I have to educate myself, right? Most of these people are not educated on the religion whatsoever. So first of all, you have to educate yourself. And it's only then where you can fairly criticize anything. Only after educating yourself up to a certain level, understanding the belief system, understand why these beliefs are the way they are. And like you said, that clearly going out there, burning the Quran like that, Muslims are not going to want to have this conversation. It's basically you showing that I don't even care about what it actually says. I don't care about what the book says at all, or I don't care about that. And I'm not even interested in having any conversation with any Muslim. That's what it's showing. It's not, if you wanted to have a debate, an actual debate or a conversation in good faith about whatever it is, you believe that, let's say this person, he believes that Islam is terrible, right? You should be able to come forward and have an actual discussion, a civil discussion with experts on the religion. And this isn't exactly moving that into, this isn't exactly making that possible, this sort of an act. So if I disagree with a certain belief system and I want to have a conversation with them, and let's say I say, oh, it's better for the world needs to know how bad this belief system is. Then what am I going to do? I'm going to ask to have conversations or debates with people of that belief system in order to show the world that, yes, this is such a terrible belief system, or this is in fact a terrible belief system, because look, even the Muslims or whatever they are, they say that their beliefs are such. But no Muslim is going to want to have a conversation with you if you're burning the Quran. That just shows that you don't have any good intentions, and you don't want what is better for humanity, because if you believe it isn't the truth, then only conversation will further that. But
again, coming back to the act of trying to be honest with your criticism of a particular faith or a particular ideology, burning the Quran, as we said, it breaks down any of that kind of communication. But if you're burning it because it causes violence and it causes all these false and dangerous ideologies, then those people who actually have those extreme views, which mainstream Muslims condemn,
that's right.
You are telling them that this is an acceptable form of well, it's not communication. This is an appropriate form of confrontation. That we burn the Quran, you do something similar, you become violent, you do this. You're saying that that's acceptable. And another thing, and we'll discuss this more when we talk about the Muslim reaction to this, how Muslims should react. But it happens a number of times. People who are involved directly in these kind of activities, these kind of burnings and desecrating holy books in this way, some of them themselves aren't mentally there. They have mental illness, they perhaps have those kind of medical issues already. That's one issue pertaining to those people in particular. It could also be that this person, it's a very plausible idea that could be the case, that this person is just looking for publicity, because before this no one knew who you were. and we're not mentioning his name for a particular reason because that's what these people want.
Exactly.
They want, oh, it was this person's name. There are people in Norway who are becoming famous for this, imagine. And, your name is going to be, now it is, it's plastered all over the internet, all over news medias.
It's a shortcut to fame.
That's exactly
especially for people who cannot attain that via extreme competence, which is normally how, if fame would come to you, it should come via a lot of hard work and competence in certain fields.
Exactly.
But this is an easy shortcut that, you go out, you do something that's extremely controversial, and you know that it's controversial. It's not done in good faith. You're not furthering any conversations. You're not really proving anything. There's a high possibility that's all you want. You want your 2 minutes of fame, and that's it. Also, some of these people, they go out there doing this under the guise of becoming some sort of a hero for free speech. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's another conversation altogether. We believe in free speech. Mm-hmm. We absolutely believe that you should have free speech, regardless of what the view is. Mm. And when it comes to free speech, there is always going to be risk of people getting offended, and I believe we should have that. Mm. It's very important to have freedom of speech, even when it causes offense, because that's the only way that we can have real, honest conversations. Yeah. And when we have real, honest conversations, it's highly likely that we're going to offend people. Mm. But this isn't anything to do with freedom of speech, because like we mentioned earlier, the guy's just, he's not trying to have a conversation. He's not trying to debate. He's not even talking about, as far as I know, he hasn't even talked about why exactly he's burning the Qur'an. Right? No, so it doesn't do anything for freedom of speech. Not at all. Freedom of speech involves a variety of people with a variety of views, and in many times opposing views, having conversations to understand each other. Mm-hmm. And yes, we must have that freedom in order to express ourselves, in order to further ourselves with knowledge, with real knowledge, and understand each other, understand different viewpoints, because it's only then that we can exist side by side with differing viewpoints. And we absolutely believe that that's possible, but the only way that's possible is that we actually clearly understand what the belief system is. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
And it is very much possible. I was just looking up the name of, it was a Danish politician. His name is Joram van Claveren. Joram van Claveren. He's a Danish politician who was initially very anti-Muslim. In fact, he mentions in his interviews that he specifically joined particular parties because of how anti-Muslim they were. Mm-hmm. I'm not mentioning him because specifically that he accepted Islam at the end, but he was honest. In fact, he mentions that the way he ended up accepting Islam was that he wanted to write a book exposing Islam. He wanted to write a book attacking Islam, but he said to himself that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to talk to imams, I'm going to have to talk to rabbis, I'm going to have to talk to priests to know exactly the primary information, exactly what the books say, exactly what the practitioners say, what do the scholars say about this, because I'm going to have to be academic and fair about this. He went through that journey, and even if he wouldn't accept Islam, we would genuinely appreciate that.
That's right.
That a person is asking this kind of information, and he's willing to engage with certain people, even though he has a certain strong-held opinion that is completely to the contrary to what we believe, for example. But you're honest enough to have that conversation, so it shows that kind of conversation is possible. But you have to be honest with yourself, and having that kind of conversation, it's not easy, it's not fashionable. No. But that is what's going to prevent these kind of attacks, these kind of divisions, these kind of... We talk about issues in relation to immigration to these countries. Obviously, this is a very complicated issue, but one of the ways to make sure that these issues and these rifts in society stay where they are is to literally burn people's books, to completely shun people from society, to take people's voices away. And this isn't something that we're making up. We look at what happened previously in France. I'm not talking about the recent issue, but previously, we all know about the attacks on Charlie Hebdo. We all know about the attacks, but when it comes to satire and mockery of religions, of particularly Islam, and when it comes to, for example, Judaism, there was a lot more strict measures taken with regards to mockery of that religion, which we support. What do we support? We support that any religion shouldn't be mocked in that way. If you disagree, you disagree, and you have a conversation with people. You have an honest conversation. No book should be, no religion should be ridiculed. No book should be desecrated. And we say, I'll briefly mention it because we're talking about this. From the Islamic perspective, of course, it doesn't make sense that we would burn the Bible, for example, out of spite. That we would burn the Torah, for example, or any of their religious scriptures, or any of the religious scriptures of any religion. And that's not something from ourselves. That's not something that we should celebrate. That Muslims are so good that we wouldn't do such a thing. Yeah. It goes against your own religion.
100%.
It goes against your own religion.
It's literally said,
that if you were to mock other people's gods, it goes against your religion, even though from our perspective they are false.
Right. Yeah.
They are objectively incorrect. It's not a true. It's not a true path to the truth, to success, to paradise. But still, you don't mock other people's religions. Yeah. Because they may mock your religion, which, from your perspective, it's true.
And that doesn't exactly result in peace in society, does it?
Exactly.
And that's the issue that what you're talking about. You're talking about the Dutch politician. He went about it exactly how I was saying earlier, how you should go about it if you are going to criticize any topic. And certainly when it comes to belief systems, certainly when it comes to religion, certainly when it comes to a religion that billions of people believe in, then you have to go about it, you have to be fair, you have to be academic, you have to do your research. And if there's going to be criticism, it therefore has to be fair. And that goes the same way for the opposite. If Muslims are going to criticize Christianity or Judaism, well, they have to go about it the same way. They shouldn't just take what's in the mainstream. And that's what I'm saying, that a lot of people are too lazy to do the work. First of all, they don't have the time. They're just going to take whatever they hear in the news, and it sounds good. Also, people kind of enjoy getting annoyed about something, getting up in arms about something, and it's easy to take whatever it is and disregard any and all nuance and get angry about something. Especially when it comes to Islam, it's just I think it's just cool to hate the religion.
That's good.
It's just fashionable now.
It's fashionable, exactly. That brings me to another form of Qur'an burnings and desecrating the Qur'an and ridiculing religion. From this perspective, you might even understand. You might even give it to them that certain people, they're not right in the head, or certain people, they're looking for publicity. They're completely insincere. Okay, whatever. People are like this. Certain people are just idiots. But what we can easily condemn and criticize in this particular situation would be the governments, the authorities who granted that permission, and then after, when they saw things aren't really good for themselves, people don't even know what's good for themselves. Then they were like, okay, no, the Swedish government completely disassociates with such activities.
This in particular, I don't understand whatsoever. It's not in your own self-interest to not condemn an activity like that. Like if you on any level whatsoever, obviously there's Muslims in Sweden, but like you mentioned earlier, the whole situation with NATO right now and Turkey being involved, and other Muslim nations, and just, for example, trade on a whole, or just global peace. It's not in your best interest, in your own self-interest on a political level, to not condemn activities like that. Because what do you think, that these Muslim countries are going to have your back in certain situations, or they're going to support you when it comes to, especially when you need it? And I don't understand why you would do that. It makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Like you said, people is one thing, but governments aren't even acting out of their own self-interest, and we see that unfortunately in a lot of Western states now. That a lot of these successful countries, it's like they're committing suicide for reasons beyond my understanding. I don't understand it whatsoever. It's just, even if you don't care about the Muslims, right? Let's say the governments don't care about the Muslims. That's fine. You don't care about the Muslims. You don't care about the people. You don't care about the religion. Even if you're acting completely out of your own selfishness, out of your own self-interest, it's not in your best interest to not condemn activities like that, to not promote peace on a global level.
For these people, you might even give it to them that they're out of their minds. They don't know, they're not in their right mind when they do these acts. Even give it to them. What's fueling real disunity and breakdown of communication isn't so much these publicity stunts, if we may call it that way. It's people who actively foster this kind of disunity online, for example.
Right.
And you have certain well-known Islamophobes, Christian apologists. It's obviously what these particular people call themselves. And what's funny is some of these people, I've never heard them talk about Christianity.
Right.
All they talk about is bashing and ridiculing Islam, which I don't know what you're trying to achieve. But these people who go out of their way to tear up the Qur'an, to desecrate the Qur'an, to mock the religion, that isn't conducive for communication. And what are you teaching the hundreds of thousands of followers that you have? That this is acceptable, that this is what you should do, and you're promoting these kind of activities in the future, that this is what is acceptable. That instead of going to a mosque and going into the mosque and contacting the imam, contacting a Muslim friend that you have, going into a mosque, trying to understand a different culture, no, you should go to a mosque, go outside and shout certain slogans. You should tear up the Qur'an. You should disrespect people that you're trying to save from their own book, which is such a terrible book.
Right.
So it's this is what's truly concerning, that these people have a following, and I would completely support a person who disagrees with Islam,
Right.
and they're seeing that Christianity is genuinely the best choice for humanity. Christianity is genuinely the best thing that can happen for the world, and this is what Muslims should convert to. This is what people should understand the light. Fair enough. There's something that you're trying to achieve. There's something that you're going towards. But certain people, they don't talk about Christianity at all. They call themselves Christian apologists, and they go out absolutely disgusting, the way that they mock the religion and the way that they go about proving anything other than Islam is better.
Yeah, and it's very strange, because if just your whole personality, it's not exactly a great personality to set up to call people to your belief system.
Yeah.
Because first of all, you're not really calling people to your belief system. You're just saying
no one knows what your belief system is.
Yeah, that's it.
What are you,
no one knows.
What are you standing for?
No one knows. All you're doing is bashing all other belief systems, and I don't know how is that meant to work. Like you said, if you believe Christianity is the best way forward, that's the best for humanity, then what you should be doing is you should be educating the public about what Christianity actually is, and perhaps how it's changed in the modern, because as we know, it has changed. Yes. And that's what you should be educating people about. You should be telling them, what the actual religion is. What do Christians actually believe? What has modern times, how have modern times warped the religion, perhaps? I feel sometimes Muslims can make better arguments for Christianity than some of these Christian apologists can. And
these Christian apologists in particular, that's definitely the case. What's hilarious to me is certain people who, for example, they leave their religion. It's been, and they say it's the most terrible thing that ever happened to you in your life. Fair enough. And for example, for us as Muslims, there are certain experiences that you have with Muslims, and we always differentiate the issue of being Muslim and Islam is perfect. Muslims are very much imperfect. We do mistakes, and we sometimes aren't sensitive to the way that we should bring the religion across, especially when there's cultural barriers, where there's cultural restrictions in the way that you think the religion is a particular way and this is how the religion should be, but it's much more wide compared to the narrow way that you're trying to portray it. And this is how you have a mature conversation about what Islam truly is and how you can balance the issue of religion and culture together. At the same time, not throwing culture out the window completely, but knowing that religion itself is something that is divinely revealed. Culture isn't. But you can take aspects from culture that are beneficial and you can proceed in that way. I was saying that as Muslims, sometimes you have very negative interactions with even imams of masajid, for example, leaders in the community, leaders of certain organizations, for example, and that can have a very negative effect on a person, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a non-Muslim, and that can really put you off from the religion. That's unfortunately the case, but that definitely is the case. But what's interesting for me is that if I had such a negative interaction with something, whether for me it's Christianity, for example. For example, if I was a Christian before and I accepted Islam, for example, the last thing this wouldn't be the first thing that I would do if I found something that was the truth. This is the truth. I would want to promote that this is the truth, that this is what we should be acting upon. This is what we should follow. And I wouldn't dwell on the fact that this is something that crippled me for my entire life.
What was negative and what
this is what was terrible. And you're going to dedicate your entire lives and your entire career to talking about how that is absolutely destructive and that should be completely thrown out the window.
The kind of excuse these people use is that
it's a strange personality to have.
No, it is a very strange personality. Yeah. The excuse these people use is that they want to save other people from whatever belief system they came from.
Yeah.
That's their kind of excuse. But like I said, it's then if you believe that's really bad, but you found the truth, shouldn't you be spending more time promoting what you believe is the truth? Like it doesn't make sense. You should be more motivated by the truth rather than what you believe isn't the truth, or what you believe to be completely wrong. That's it just doesn't make sense. Like I said, you have to have a very particular kind of personality to be doing that, and these people definitely they enjoy it, you know. And again, the day and age we live in now, it's a lot of that has become entertainment, and that fuels that. Those people they gain a following, and they benefit in more ways than one. Yeah, and that's a big issue because our society is set up in such a way, and it's that attention exactly, and it's all about the attention. It's all about the clips. It's all about
clicks.
What's controversial to say, and it's a lot more controversial to say negative things than to promote kind of peace and unity.
Conversation.
And it was Chris Williamson actually from the Modern Wisdom podcast. Is a great podcast, by the way, and he was saying that he's just so sick of all this negativity, all this kind of victim mentality online. He's going to start this toxic positivity movement. And it was hilarious. And he started putting out these...
That is toxic. Why? This is another whole issue that trying to better yourself is now toxic.
Right. Doing anything or concentrating on what is good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We now we're starting to realize, because the West is kind of... A lot of the issues that weren't there before are happening now, and it's very strange issues. We won't go into the politics of it, but it's almost like for so long things were too good,
exactly,
and we didn't appreciate that, and now
there's a reason why we're here,
that we exist
there's
right
a reason,
now.
No, I mean us specifically. Our parents immigrated.
Oh right, yeah.
There's.
that we exist right now, but that's another.
That's
thing,
also true. Yes, but there's a reason that we came here. The reason for all this saga about the immigration and why is this such an issue about the Quran burnings, and why is the Quran burnings even a thing?
Yeah.
Because of the Muslim populations in the West. But why did they come here? Because it was successful from that perspective, that it was somewhere that was safe. It was somewhere that you had freedom.
Yeah.
And
it was somewhere where you would get fairly rewarded for the effort
that
you would put in.
Yeah.
That's why our parents came to this country, because it had to Ireland specifically. Ireland is still I have to say it's still one of the better countries in the West. But things are changing here a little bit as well.
We can focus on the positives.
But like I said, but that's why our parents came here, because of what was on offer, and it was amazing. But to concentrate on that too, it wasn't. They didn't come to take freebies from the government. They came here because they knew that if you work hard in this country, you'll get fairly rewarded. And that's exactly what they're doing and what they're getting. And also our parents have given back so much back into society. They are productive members of the country, of society, as are we, as we try to be. And that's the we're not going to talk about the immigration kind of it's a very complicated issue, but that's like you said, that's why we're here, because these countries were great to come to. Now a lot of even the people who are, let's say, more native to the country, or whatever that means, but more native to the country, even they're thinking of maybe leaving to some of the Arab states, for example, because they have a lot of different they have a lot of things going for them now that these Western countries maybe don't anymore, especially kind of moving forward. A lot of the particular political ideologies, it really is becoming more and more difficult for people. And let me be clear, for all sorts of backgrounds, for all sorts of political beliefs, for all sorts of religious beliefs. So it is becoming quite difficult. But
I'm just going to mention one point with regards to that. It's different ideologies. It's not about the ideology that you support. It's not about the what side of the spectrum are you on. Where exactly do you fit in? Now it's reaching a point where every conversation against a particular paradigm is being shut down, and you're being cancelled, and you're not allowed to speak, and you're not allowed to have a conversation.
That's it.
Which is exactly what we don't want. This is exactly what we're saying, that it shouldn't be the case. We would absolutely be open to have an honest conversation with someone who is a devout Christian, a devout Jew, for example, an atheist. If you want to have an honest conversation, we would absolutely love that.
In good faith.
Yeah, we don't want to shut you down. We absolutely wouldn't ridicule you. If we want to promote something that is positive, and if we want to bring you closer to that which is positive, why would we ridicule you in the process? And this will bring us closer to the advice that we would give Muslims in this kind of.
And just to say, imagine what kind of a different debate isn't really debate anymore, because the original aim of a debate is to get closer to the truth, regardless of what the parties believe in, right? That's the point of a debate. But now it's more so just about bashing the other person a lot of the time, personally, bashing the other person, not even their viewpoints. It's about personal attacks. But of course the viewpoints. But that's the thing. If two people of opposing viewpoints came together, but their actual aim, their only agenda, was to bring the other person, or everyone watching, whoever is involved, closer to the truth, how would you conduct yourself?
Exactly.
You wouldn't be conducting yourself in that situation by being abusive towards the other person, because that's not going to convince them of anything. They're going to get extremely defensive, regardless of even if they're somehow objectively wrong, let's say. They're going to get more defensive. That's not exactly a great way to invite what you believe is the absolute truth. And same vice versa. So if both parties, if we have opposing viewpoints, and we go into the conversation or debate with the aim that I want to bring this person closer to what I believe to be the truth, I'm going to conduct myself a very different way. I'm going to try my best to be as civil as possible. And if I'm going to attack anything, I'm going to attack the viewpoints. Even the way I criticize, even the manners I'm going to have are going to be very, very different. Because I'm trying to convince you of what I believe is the truth. And also, the way I conduct myself is a direct reflection of
The belief system that
of the belief system that I have. And that's also an invitation to my belief system, the way I conduct myself. In fact, in most cases, that's the most compelling invitation to a person, we've said this so many times, to a person's belief system. How do you conduct yourself? It's not even about kind of the viewpoints, it's how do they act? How do they act to other men, other women, children? How do they act to other people with opposing viewpoints? How do they live among societies which maybe aren't a majority of whatever belief system that they have? All of this matters. And if our agenda, let's say, was to actually bring people towards the truth, I promise you, we would all be, regardless of what belief system we have, political, religious, we would be conducting ourselves in a much, much better fashion, because that's the best way to convince someone is to go about it in a calm, convincing manner, and let the points speak for themselves, because if they're such the truth, rather than kind of getting in the way by abusing and bashing the other person and their belief system, and in the process bashing perhaps billions of people, which is exactly what happens when it comes to...
Absolutely. And that's exactly it. That what's the point of a belief system if it doesn't have any tangible impact on the way you live your life? If it doesn't better your life, if it doesn't make you a better person, if it doesn't make you a stronger individual, then what's the point of that belief system? And it comes even down to a theological discussion that we have within Islam, that is it enough to say that you're a Muslim, that you believe? Is that enough? Is belief enough, or does it require actions? And there's obviously some disagreement about the exact technicalities of this, but many scholars, they say that no, you need to have some level of action to support the belief that you have. And from a general perspective, yes, what's the point of that belief system? What's the point in believing in God, believing in the Prophet, believing in angels, believing in a day that you're going to return to your Lord, in a day that you're going to be held accountable for what you did in this life, if it doesn't have any impact on the way that you live? I just wanted to give one example, which was in relation to one Christian apologist. I'll mention this debate that was done because it's very revealing. And unfortunately, it is the case that it is a lot of the time, this is the kind of understanding that certain people, particularly people who bash Islam, people who are against Islam, this is the level of understanding of the religion that they tend to have. And this was a debate that I'd recommend everyone to watch. This was between Muhammad Hijab and David Wood. I was watching this debate. This almost goes against the point that you were making, that the purpose of debate is to bring each person closer to the truth. In certain situations, we mentioned this in a previous podcast, that sometimes the purpose of a debate in a particular situation, because of a particular context and because of particular people who are discussing it, sometimes it is to put the other person down academically. And again, not to be violent. It doesn't make any sense to be violent. But to have academic rigor, academic honesty, and just basic facts that you can humble a person, that you can put a person down, put them in their place. And that was so clearly explained or clearly highlighted in that debate, Muhammad Hijab and David Wood. If any Muslim with any basic understanding of Islam watches that debate, it was about Tawheed and the Trinity, and we're not here to bash the Trinity. That's not something that we're discussing here. But we're focusing from the Muslim perspective. Basic concepts, the man was getting wrong. The man apparently dedicated his entire life. He's an academic. He knows everything about it. Basic things that any child in a village in Pakistan, it's just an example. Any random person who knows anything about Islam, the basics of Islam, what is the concept of Tawheed, the oneness of God, they would know. This guy. What are you talking about?
That's what I find truly offensive.
It's the base of the religion, and you don't know what.
That's what I find truly offensive, that you're not doing your due diligence. Due diligence.
Due diligence. English words.
Due diligence. You're not doing your due diligence.
Yes.
That you're not putting in the work in order to fairly criticize. We just said that, yes, you should have the right to criticize the religion, but you should be fair about it. So you should know, at the very least, what did the Muslims actually believe? Because if you don't know what the Muslims actually believe, what are you basing your criticism on?
Yeah.
It's fine. Yes, you should have the right to criticize it, but that has to be based in reality and facts. And that's what's so depressing, and what I would say truly offensive about it. That you're not even getting the facts right. Yeah. I'm not offended by someone criticizing Islam based on facts. Or kind of criticizing the belief system based on what we actually believe. But I find it truly offensive if someone is criticizing the religion based on what the mainstream media says, based on the interaction that they had with some random person that claims to be Muslim. It's not fair at all. And that goes the other way as well. That, like we said, that if you're going to criticize anything, any religion, any belief system, any political ideology, the very least you can do is understand what the core beliefs are that you're about to criticize.
And if you don't know, it's not an issue. Just be humble about it and understand that you're not in a place that you can criticize a person because you don't know what they believe. Understand that and have that humility. And we would love to have a conversation. So what's concerning about him, for example, David Wood, is that he presents himself as an academic, but he has no basic knowledge about Islam. He doesn't have the humility to ask someone, what do you actually believe? And there are certain concepts that I've come to know recently that people have certain misunderstandings about the religion. For example, that we worship the black box, the black building in Mecca. And of course we pray towards it, in the Kaaba it's called. We pray towards it. It's it is the holiest site in Islam. But to have the understanding that it's some kind of idol that we worship, that goes against the core belief for us as Muslims. Of course, that's not the case. We pray towards it, we pray facing it, because Allah told us to do so. We have been ordered to do so. Before, actually, it was Jerusalem that we would face. We used to face Jerusalem, which gives that connection with Judaism, actually, because it's the one line of prophets that we believe in. You have Moses, you have Jesus, peace be upon both of them, and you have the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It all goes down the one line of prophets. So this is what we actually believe in this regard. And what I wanted to say about this is a common belief, that a common misconception that people have about Islam. Fine, you're not saying that you're an academic. Let's have a conversation. It's fine. It's such an easy misconception to break. We're in Islam, for example, we're so proud, we are so strict about the concept of Tawheed. That's what's integral about our religious faith, the oneness of God, that He is one, He has no partners. And yes, if that is the case, that we worship idols, that wouldn't make particular sense, and that would make us hypocrites in that sense, that we believe one thing and we do something else. But let's have a conversation, let's be academic about it. Right, so advice for Muslims.
Yeah.
The first piece of advice that I wanted to highlight was be academic when you're addressing any issue. I was just talking about how it's important to be academic in relation to Islam, that if you disagree with Islam, if you have questions about Islam, that you're honest and that you're academic. If you don't know about it, say that you don't know. You don't have to have an opinion about everything, especially if you don't know. This is something that was promoted by our classical scholars, that they would say that I don't know, and they would say statements along the lines of I don't know is 1/3 of the religion. It's not something embarrassing to say that you don't know, especially if you don't know enough about a particular topic to have an opinion about issues that are very deep and have lots of different moving parts to them.
The most dangerous thing is having half knowledge or superficial knowledge on any topic.
Yeah.
That's the worst possible thing.
This is what we say to everyone, for Muslims and non-Muslims. Have truths, untruths. This is the most destructive thing that you can do, because if you truly believe something and it's based on half a fact, or if it's not even a fact, if it's something that someone told you, then that is good for no one, and that's fueling emotions and anger based on nothing.
Yeah.
So in every situation you have to be academic, you have to be fair. And we don't need to run away from anything. If something is good for us, fine, it's good.
Yeah.
If something is incorrect, we don't need to add fuel to the fire. We don't need to add false news, false facts. And this is what I was saying about false news, that sometimes we receive a message, we receive a picture, we receive something on WhatsApp University. And that's taken as the gospel truth. It's taken as the Quranic fact, for example. But if you don't know where it came from, just say I don't know. If you can go back to the source and see, oh yeah, for example, the Swedish government said this, go back to their Twitter page. If they said it, according to the Swedish government Twitter page, this is what they said. According to Turkey's foreign ministry, they said this.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't even going back to the actual source. They're getting some information off YouTube, which is, by the way, this kind of secondhand information is really dangerous, and it happens so easily. It's like when you're one step away from the actual original source, understand that there's already something lost. There's already, whether it's context, a little bit of nuance, and it's usually that context or a little bit of nuance that changes absolutely everything about that. So it doesn't require that much research to go to, like you said, the official Twitter page or the official Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, and see what those people are actually saying, or that organization is actually talking about. Because we tend to get our, especially, and that's the thing, if we're getting our news from a place like YouTube, especially if we're following a particular kind of a person, whether they're leaning a certain way politically, they're going to put a certain flavor on it.
Biased in a particular way.
Exactly. It's going to be a little biased, even if they don't want it to be. They're going to, even their tone is going to change how you perceive that information. And if you're going to take that as objective fact and you're going to base your emotional response and perhaps your reaction on that, that's already many. You're becoming really far away from the truth instantly.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. You really need to make sure that you know where you're getting your stuff. If you don't know, say that you don't know because you don't know.
Yeah.
There's a proverb that a person who speaks everything that they hear has surely said the truth. No, he has surely lied. He has surely lied. Yes. Rather, there's a spin on that I wanted to say. So the statement was that a person who says everything that they hear has surely lied. Something is definitely a lie. Everything that you hear now, it's a lie. I say that a person who says everything that they hear has never said the truth. That's almost how it is, because it's surprisingly difficult to find out what actually happened.
And it usually takes a lot of time.
Sometimes,
at least wait a few days, maybe, if you're going to have an official response to something.
Yeah. Right? Oh my God. More advice to Muslims.
Look, it doesn't help anyone if you get over emotional.
And be violent. That's exactly the point that I was going to say.
It does not help anyone. In fact,
you may continue.
In fact, the point, maybe, crazy thought.
Okay.
Maybe this is exactly what the guy who's burning the Quran wants to prove.
No. How can that be the case?
Right? Yeah. That he wants to show, he knows that, okay, perhaps it's a particularly emotional group.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe the Muslims are a particularly emotional group.
We've had some indications from the past that may point in this direction.
So, if I burn the Quran, and let's say I'm doing it in protest, showing that the Muslims are a violent group of people, right? So I'm going to burn the Quran, right? He burns the Quran. And then, as a result of that, Muslims, they show violence. What does that prove?
Before you get to that point, I want to highlight the reality of human beings. That is, in such a situation where billions of people revere their religion, they revere their prophet, they love their book, they see it as divine. If it is repeatedly burnt, repeatedly mocked, and permission is repeatedly being given, specifically for that, and world leaders, on the other hand, aren't allowed, you're not allowed to criticize them, that's completely shut down. But that specifically is being done. I'm not saying that it's allowed, that's exactly what you're saying, that it's not. But we're human beings. If someone becomes emotional and is violent because of that, it's not a surprise why that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's again, violence is never the answer.
Yeah.
This should be, like you're saying, the responsibility should be in, the majority Muslim countries. They should be taking charge. They should be condemning this. They should be having conversations.
It's not an excuse.
Certainly not.
It's a contextualization.
Yeah, and
It's the reality.
Of course, if you're gonna, like you're saying, if you're going to burn the holy book that we love so much and that we believe to be the truth, is it a surprise that Muslims are going to get pissed off?
Exactly.
And I'll come to that, but first of all, you're going to feel anger, but being violent, especially if you're I don't want to say an average person, well, that doesn't really mean anything, but let's say you're not in a position of power, let's say you're not in the government, you can't make a statement like that, right? And you going about, let's say, burning things in the street in protest or in response. Oh, he burned the Quran.
When groups and people are actively trying to maintain the situation.
Yeah, and it basically you're proving their exact point that they're going to point at you now.
Exactly.
Oh, look at the Muslims now. They're burning the streets and they're looting now, and that's exactly the point that. It's going to be very easy for them. Like, this is exactly why Muslims are violent and why we can't have conversations with them. You're proving their point. Exactly. So even though, yes, you're going to feel angry, you should feel angry. Isn't like you should feel angry, and you should condemn this. But it should never be violent because you're exactly proving what they're proving, and it's really, really difficult. You should be angry. You should be condemning this. You should be, for example, the things that we can do are the likes of peaceful protests. This is something you should be having conversations with your government, doing as much as whether it comes to petitions and everything. And I understand it can seem it
might seem like a weak response.
Yeah, exactly. It might seem like a weak response, and that, but the answer, it's not violence. It never is violence. That doesn't do anything. That completely destroys any further. If people who are against Islam, let's just take that. If people who are against Islam, if they want to truly, if they don't want to have a conversation, then your response to that, the Muslim response to that, shouldn't be that, okay, you don't want to have a conversation, let's burn everything. No, it should be, this is terrible, we're condemning this, and we should be having conversations as to prevent this in the future. And also, we should be having conversations, educating people so that they wouldn't want to do that anyway. It shouldn't be, it's probably not ideal to have it kind of by law that, oh, you shouldn't do that. I don't know the answer. But I'm saying that it's the same way that we don't want to burn the Bible. Why would we want to do that? It makes absolutely no sense. It's not productive. And that's separate from the fact that we believe in so much of it.
Exactly.
But it's just not showing my fellow Christians that I want to get along with them.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I want to get along with them. I want to get along with you regardless of your belief system, even if it's completely opposite to mine, even if you think it's not very productive. We can get along, and that's the responsibility of the Muslims to show that yes, we condemn these actions, and you should strongly condemn those. Of course, you shouldn't be weak in that regard, but violence is never the answer. Burning down buildings in response, burning anything in response, isn't the answer, because you're burning your own. It's where you live. Yes. You're burning your own society, and that fuels further protest, further distrust in Muslims.
Exactly.
Because, like I said over and over again, it basically, a lot of the time, it proves the point that these people are trying to make.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
If you go out and become violent and engage in the same activities that they were engaged in, number one, it proves their point. We are making them successful in what they want. Yeah. They want to make us out as a bunch of terrorists, a bunch of people who can't hold themselves and can't hold a conversation.
No brains, no logic.
Exactly. Number two, it's particularly ironic. Say if you're going out in the street and you're defending the honour of the Prophet, peace be upon him, violently.
Yeah.
How ironic is that? We're not crazed lunatics that we would just burn things around. So it goes against your own religion, as we were saying. That
Exactly.
To say that we, as you're saying, we would burn the Bible, we would burn a Jewish text, for example. It doesn't make any sense because, first of all, we believe in so much of it, and religiously, it doesn't make any sense. Why would we do that?
Yeah.
So it goes against your own religious ethics as well.
It makes absolutely no sense, and that's another thing, that those kind of people, when they perform actions like that, it brings about opportunities. I'm trying to phrase this in a way which is
Coherent.
yeah.
Makes sense.
Words, conversation. But it brings about opportunities for people who are Muslims, or let's say who are the affected side.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? There's people on all sides, Muslims, non-Muslims, whatever.
We can all improve. It's everyone's responsibility to improve.
But what I'm trying to say is that that's actually not the point that I was going to make.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to make it that it gives weak people. It gives weak people an opportunity for potential shortcuts to heroism, because that's essentially, let's say this guy is trying to be heroic. He's trying to become. It's a shortcut to heroism, right? Because yes, I believe in freedom of speech. Therefore, I'm burning the Quran. That's the point.
He's the Messiah figure.
There you go. But unfortunately, now the affected group, they are going to be weak Muslims who are going to say, yes, I'm a hero. I am going to defend the honor of Islam.
Yeah.
I'm going to defend the honor of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I am going to defend the honor of the Qur'an and God himself. No, you're not. Okay? If the ultimate truth isn't affected by some guy burning the holy book, the Prophet's honor is not affected by some guy burning the Quran. God's honor is not affected by some guy burning the Quran. It's not affected. And you taking it upon yourself that I am going to save the honor of whether it's God or the Prophet, peace be upon him, or the Quran, or Muslims at large, it's a very strange kind of a mindset, because you're not going to do anything. And it brings about people who want a shortcut to seem heroic. And it's usually those kind of people who perform the most extreme actions in retaliation to such an act, because they also want their name out, and it's under the guise of, I'm going to protect Islam. I'm a fighter when it comes to Islam.
Exactly.
I'm trying to protect Islam in the West, or whatever it is. So yeah, you have to be very careful, and these people are in every community.
Every community,
they
exactly,
exist,
exactly, yeah.
and it's usually the ones I always say. It's usually the ones who don't have much going for them.
Yes,
because you know why? It's very easy for someone to take that shortcut. Oh, I'm very pissed off about this, so I'm going to go out, pretend to be a hero, and burn something in response. No, and it's very, very difficult to go about it academically, to have built up a certain name in society which is trusted already, to work years and years in whatever your chosen field is, to gain the trust of individuals, so that when you do have an opinion, it has some value, and then people will actually listen to you. Or you attack the other party with words, and you don't feel like you need to attack with violence or with physicality or anything like that. And because it's difficult to build up your name. It takes years. It's difficult to become extremely competent. It's difficult to be able to have precise speech.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's the thing. It gives the opportunity to weak people in general, which are in every belief system, on every side, to try to take a shortcut to heroism,
exactly.
Under the guise of, yes, I'm going to protect whatever belief system that I believe.
It's up to us to do what we can within our abilities, within our capabilities, within the resources that we have, to defend the honor of our religion, to defend the honor of the Quran and the Prophet. But what anyone says about the Prophet, they can say anything about the Prophet, his honor isn't affected.
No.
They can say anything about, they can burn as many Qurans as they like, the honor of the Quran and the preservation of the Quran is unaffected. They can say whatever they want about God, They can say anything about Allah and His honor isn't affected.
And let me tell you something.
If they spit at the moon
Right.
and it falls back on their face,
Yeah.
who is humiliated?
Right. No. Oh, look, and let me tell you something, right?
That was a pretty deep level.
No, really, this is it. It's now that we're talking about it, it's it's really getting me going. You can burn. I'm getting emotional.
Well, it's that kind of issue. I mean, yeah.
Listen.
What specifically is getting you?
No, I'll tell you. Let me gather myself here. This has gotten. I didn't expect to be so. Man, it just hurts me to see that. Like we can do better.
Yeah.
As humanity, we can do better. You know. Give me a sec. I have a point.
Yeah.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
As Haseeb gathers himself, I'll just add this interesting fact that maybe people against Islam might bring up. But Muslims have burnt the Qur'an in the past. They have thrown the Qur'an in rivers and yes, to respectfully dispose of the Qur'an. Oh, you respectfully dispose of the Qur'an?
How could you do?
Yeah, because we respect the written text of the Qur'an.
Yes.
We make sure it's in a nice place. We have respect. We don't throw it around anywhere. And when we dispose of it, we don't throw it into the trash with everything else.
Yeah.
We don't want the pages to be torn up like that. So to respectfully dispose of it, we make sure that it's completely extinguished in that way, that the pages are completely
No
vanished.
more.
Yeah. And the same with if we put them in through water, that the ink goes away. That's how you respectfully dispose of the Quran.
Yeah.
And I would submit that these people aren't in the they don't have that intention of respectfully disposing of the Quran, that it would be.
If that's your
especially tearing
argument.
up the Quran. I would perhaps submit that. But in case
right,
we have that in there as well. But tell us, why Haseeb is this, what specifically is getting you emotional about
I'll
this?
tell you what, the thing is, you can burn every Quran in existence.
Exactly. No, absolutely.
I say burn it, right?
I was thinking that as I said it. Yeah.
Burn every Quran in existence. I challenge you. You know what's great? We have it in our hearts.
I think we'll edit this part out.
These people think they're doing something, you know.
Yeah, a big man.
They think they're achieving something.
Big people.
And but that's what I'm saying. I say, oh, you want to burn the Quran? Burn all the physical Qurans in existence. We have it in our hearts. There are so many people, millions of people around the world have memorized this book off by heart, including ourselves. And alhamdulillah, we are very, very proud of that. We don't even need it written down anywhere, because we have it in our hearts, we have it in our brains, and we recreate that instantly.
You bring 10 people who have memorized the Quran, who know it, who are certified. We can bring it to you
instantly. It's do what you want. Burn them. Keep burning them. It's not going to affect the religion, the belief, the Quran itself, because we not only, and may God keep that in our hearts and really truly give us the ability.
We are means to
exactly
preserving the Quran,
right? And give us the ability to practice truly what is in that, and also to show people what actually Islam is and what the Quran actually is,
exactly,
so that they don't ever feel the need to burn the Quran. But yes, this is something that can be recreated very quickly.
It's probably the best time to mention the verse, which, if there's one thing that you get out of this podcast, if there's one thing that you listen from this podcast, it's the verse. Because our speech, we'll talk for hours about this issue, but Allah said, somewhat ironically, it says in the same Quran that this guy is burning, he says, يُرِيدُونَ لِيُطْفِئُوا نُورَ اللَّهِ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ وَاللَّهُ مُتِمُّ نُورِهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْكَافِرُونَ. That they want to extinguish the word of Allah. They want to extinguish the light of Allah. But Allah Allah has perfected His light. He's the one who's going to preserve His light. Whether the disbelievers, the enemies, those who go against the Qur'an, those who want to burn the Qur'an, whether they like it or not, Allah has preserved that for us. So you can do whatever we want. We Muslims can run away from the Qur'an. We can be like, oh, we don't want to act upon this part. We don't want to do this part. Allah has preserved it. Don't worry about that.
That's it.
There are enough battles for us as communities, as believing communities in God, that we can agree and we can unite on certain issues. Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those issues.
And I feel like, and we can end on this, that I feel like it's becoming very, very obvious, the kind of agenda that I mentioned earlier, that now would be a better time than any for these three major religions, let's say, the Abrahamic faiths, to unite on what our core belief is. And we believe in family values, we believe in all of these things. And a lot of those things, a lot of those core beliefs are very clearly under attack in a lot of places, and especially in the West. And now would be the best time to concentrate more on what we have in common rather than our differences, because there's I feel like hard times are coming if we don't. It's a waste of our energy and the time to be going against each other, especially when our core values are aligned.
Unity number one within the community, within those who believe in the religion of Islam, regardless of what sect you belong to. This is something you believe in the Qur'an. We all believe in the divine nature of the Qur'an. We can all get behind this. We can all stand behind this, and we can all unite on these issues that we all agree with. Not saying that people get emotional about this, that, so should we neglect all the issues that we have, all the differences that we have? No, continue to have those conversations. There's certain things that we disagree within, between the different sects. Fine, have those conversations. But know when the place is, where is the place, and when is the time for those conversations. And a time like this is a time of unity. A time like this is a time to show a united front, as we see in the OIC, for example, as we see joint reactions from different Muslim communities, different backgrounds, different cultures, Muslims from different sects, all stand behind this, because this is something that we can all agree, we can all stand behind. And then our own communities, the issue of identity, perhaps we can go into this in another podcast. But when I discuss these issues, I gave a khutbah the last time. There was a Qur'an burning in Sweden, actually. I gave a khutbah about this, how should the Muslims react, which many of the points that we discussed here was what I mentioned. And I tend to think of it as I think this is beneficial that we do, so that we first look at it as an individual. What can I do? What should my personal reaction be to this? Then as a family, I mean as a community, as the Muslims, what should we do? And then we look, quote unquote, outside, because we live in Ireland, for example. We're part of the culture, we're part of the society, and we are part of the culture. So this is our country, this is our society, and so we talk to our own people in that way. Lastly, inshallah, God willing, this is the last point, unless you have something else.
No, I'm good.
Okay, we'll finish off with this. Everyone can improve from this. This is a learning opportunity for all of us. If we focus on the issue of education, the issue of conversation, the issue of information, this is something that Muslims can improve on and non-Muslims can improve on. Sure, from the point of view of non-Muslims, if you don't know about it, say I don't know, and withhold judgment on that issue. But it may be the case, we must understand from the Islamic perspective, that they may be reluctant to approach a Muslim. They may be afraid to discuss these issues with a Muslim. That's why the way that we interact with people in our community should be in a way that is open, that allows conversation, that allows that this is a person that I can talk to. This is a person I can have a conversation with.
Yeah, people shouldn't be, especially to the Muslims, if your behavior is a certain way in society, especially with non-Muslims, and it's very negative, they're going to be afraid to approach you and to talk to you about, well, anything to do with Islam. And that's not what you want. You want to encourage people to talk to you, and also you don't want them. We mentioned this in a previous podcast that you don't want the situation to be such that they're afraid to ask questions because they think they're going to offend you, and you're truly going to be offended.
Yeah.
And these conversations need to be as open as possible. Only then do you find out what the truth about the religion actually is and what we actually believe.
Precisely, exactly. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow all of us to do our part in truly living the religion of Islam, practicing it in a way that is not alien to the way that Islam is to what is taught in the Qur'an, and that He allows this incident to be an opportunity for the Muslims to come together, to allow us to come together and to contextualize the differences that we have.
To show off our actual faith.
Absolutely, and faith. We have faith. We believe in Allah. We believe that there is a time that certain people are going to be held to task, whether that's in this world or the next, and we hope for the best for everyone. People that we disagree with.
Absolutely.
If a certain Qur'an burner accepts Islam tomorrow, that's what's beautiful about the religion. If he's honest, if he says, I believe in Islam, and if he's honest about that,
yeah, 100%.
Accepted Islam, he's a brother in the religion, and it doesn't mean that everything. If there's issues that have to be dealt with from a legal perspective, that has to be done. But from the Islamic perspective, we aren't the judge.
No,
we're not the judge. God is the judge. And so, finally, a final message to those people who might continue to desecrate the Qur'an and to ridicule our beliefs and to shut down conversation. You think that's what you're achieving. You think that you are extinguishing the light of God. You are extinguishing, you are removing, you are questioning and challenging the preservation of the Qur'an. That's what you think you're doing. You think that you're disuniting the Muslims. You have made us closer together. You have made us stronger. You have made us more faithful in our religion. You have reignited by setting fire to the Qur'an in your hand. You have reignited our love and the love that we have for the Qur'an and our religion. And with that, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us the best practitioners that we can be of Islam. And with that, Jazakumullah khair, let us know in the comments if you agree with what we say, if what paradigm are you coming from? Are you a non-Muslim who's listening to this, wanting to understand our perspective? Have we changed your mind? Is there something new that we learned, that you've learned from the Muslim perspective? Is there something that you've learned from this? Let us know in the comments, inshallah, and that would be greatly appreciated. With that, all the best to everyone who's watching, and Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.